started in just a minute here, so thank you all for being here and being on time. But I just want to say before we get started, for audience questions, we are going to ask you to write them down on 3x5 cards. So if anyone wants any now.
Our candidate forum. This is the first one that Lakeland Now has done at Lakeland Live. We're so happy to welcome the people here at Lakeland Live and the people who are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and the Lakeland Now website. We're very glad to have to offer a chance for the citizens of Lakeland to get to know the candidates for City Commission and hear their positions on local issues. The event fits with the mission of Lakeland Now, which is to provide independent, community-driven coverage about efforts to make Lakeland more livable. We're a nonprofit, and that's a key to our operation. I have several things tonight. First of all, to all the candidates for agreeing to participate, thank you for being here. I want to thank Lakeland Live for providing the venue and the live streaming. We have several interns here from both Florida Southern College and Florida Poly, so thank you to them. I want to specifically thank our amazing Community Engagement Director, Trinity Lorino, for her enthusiastic work in organizing this forum. And finally, to our moderator, Andrea Oliver. Andrea is an experienced broadcaster who knows Lakeland well. She is the host of our video, I'm gonna take this off, of our video conversation series called Lakeland Now In View. And by the way, Lakeland Now In View is going to be reprising and going back on the air very shortly. We have a great partnership with Florida Southern College, and we'll be taping at their studios, and looking forward to that. It'll be starting very soon, and now we're going to turn it over to Andrea.
And a very pleasant evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be moderating this event, the 2020 Lakeland Now Political Forum. Tonight, we'll be hearing from the candidates, and there are 4 vying for the Southeast District D seat. As you recall, the seat became vacant when Commissioner Scott Franklin got to the U.S. House of Representatives. So we are honored, actually, to have all 4 candidates in the building this evening, and I will be introducing them to you in a moment. Just to give you a brief overview of what will happen this evening, each candidate will get 2 minutes to tell us why they should be the next Lakeland City Commissioner. Following that, we will have the proceedings move into the question and answer segment, and each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer the questions posed to them. To keep things fair, ladies and gentlemen, we will ask the same questions to all 4 candidates, so you don't have to sit and worry, well, that's a hard question. Why is that one getting that question? They will all have to field all the questions, and they'll have 90 seconds. If we do great on our time, and our producer for tonight, Trinity Lorena, is going to make sure that we do, then we will move into questions from the audience. So without much ado, I would like to introduce our candidates for this evening's forum. 56-year-old Steve Frankenberger, manager of the photography department of Public Supermarkets, where he's worked for 36 years. He's also owned and operated his own photography business for 20 years. It's his first time running for political office. You'll hear that statement a lot tonight. 49-year-old Mike Musick, owner of Musick Construction and Roofing in Lakeland. The company has existed for nearly 2 decades, and this is also his first time running for office. To my immediate left, 55-year-old Ken Post, who has worked for health-related nonprofits focusing on building management, project management, and strategic planning. He spent 3 years in human resources. Anybody want to finish that sentence? There you go. It is also his first time running for office. I said this to this gentleman when I walked in. I said, you know, you're the veteran here. 46-year-old Chandale Terrell, who also goes by Dale. Terrell is an educator for Polk Public Schools. He works with special needs students, analyzes academic assessment data, and mentors students. This is his 4th time, ladies and gentlemen, running for political office. Again, gentlemen, thank you so very much for being here this evening. So, Mr. Frankenberger, we are actually going to be starting with you. But as we mentioned, all 4 candidates will get an opportunity to answer the question. So needless to say, COVID is at the top of the list. And there is a lot of optimism about the trajectory of COVID-19. Vaccines have started. And the number of new cases in Polk County, well, they've fallen significantly from its high at the start of 2021. But the numbers are well above last fall's levels, and there are new concerns about the newer, more transmissible variants that are more common in Florida than any other state. The question, sir: should the city of Lakeland do more than it's currently doing to encourage people to take precautions? If so, what should the city do? I'm going to let the gentleman think about that for a little bit, because what I would like to do now is move into the section where you get to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are the next candidate for city. So I gave a little sneak peek, all right? So Mr. Frankenberger, sir, if you would.
So 36 years ago, I moved to Lakeland. I started working with Publix. I raised a family here. Publix gave me the training, the leadership, budgeting, and strategic, everything I needed to build myself for this position today. My family, my wife and I will be celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary this year. And she works for March of Dimes, a nonprofit. My beautiful daughter is a 9th grader at McKeel Academy, and I have a son that he graduated Lakeland High School and then went on to graduate the U.S. Air Force Academy. He is currently in California with his lovely wife and my granddaughter, not his daughter. But they're out in California stationed there for now. He's a captain and a pilot. My vision with City Commission, I want to be the voice of everybody. I want people to be able to reach out, talk to me, give me their ideas. I want to represent everybody in the city of Lakeland, from small business, big business. I do have that unique perspective by working for a large company and how that operates, to also running my own business for 20 years. And then bringing all that together within Lakeland and supporting growth in a responsible way with all of our infrastructure and everything going along with that. And then, oh, I just got a time. Oh, sorry, I'm new at that. So anyways, Lakeland has been a great community. We've got a lot of great things happening. I want to be part of that, to support it, and to listen to the folks of Lakeland and how I can be a servant leader for them as a city commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate that. And Mr. Fold, if you will, Mr. Musick.
Hi there, I'm Mike Musick. I've been a resident of Lakeland for 42 years. Tell you a little bit about myself. My wife, Nikki, and I have been married for 22 years. And we've got 3 children, and they're all in college, so you can be praying for us on that. I'm like you guys. That's why I should be the next city commissioner. Like many of you, I own a small business. I know what it's like to be out there and to run up against the red tape, the bureaucracy. I know what it's like at the end of a week to make payroll. I've got 25 families that every Friday, they're looking for me to pay for them for the hard work that they did all week long. And small business owners, we struggle with that. COVID has been very difficult for a lot of us. And to take that knowledge, to take that experience to City Hall is important. Small business is the backbone, right? We've got representation from small business, from large business, but all of my life, all I've done is worked hard to keep small business the business. I think that it's important that in City Hall, we have a conservative voice for keeping our taxes low, for having transparency. Lakeland Now is amazing. How many of us have gotten up in the morning and read an article online to find something that the city did the night before, right? We need transparency. We need to know what's going on. We need to have the availability to go out and have all the information. Come if you choose, but that needs to be available. As a small business owner, I want to be there in City Hall to fight for you, to be a conservative, fiscally responsible person that can help you and help the rest of Lakeland. Thank you.
And we thank you very much, sir. Mr. Post, your turn.
Thank you. Good evening, neighbors. My name is Ken Post, and I want to thank you for this opportunity. Tonight, I wanted to invite us all to envision what it means to be alive together in times such as these, to consider all the good work we can do on behalf of all the residents within our city limits. We have endured the challenges presented by COVID-19 global pandemic. Yes, it has been extremely hard to get used to wearing a mask and keeping our distance. Yes, many are still recovering from COVID-19, and many of us are mourning the loss of loved ones. Yes, some of us got, or we are still waiting for our vaccine. What we all have in common is that we all can't wait to see what life post-COVID looks like. This pause in our routines is giving us the gift to assess our city's rapid growth. We get to be innovative and creative. I want us to work together in finding solutions that ensure that the growth in the city of Lakeland is measured and well managed. Our goal is to help build a smart city of Lakeland, where all the residents of all ages and all backgrounds can thrive. A city of Lakeland that exhibits great qualities, such as accessible transportation pathways that are friendly to people of all abilities, for pedestrians, cyclists, wheelchairs, scooters. I want 2 minutes?
Yes, sir, you did.
Oh, and I still have 2 sentences.
And so
All
that's
right,
kind of
sorry.
how the evening will proceed. A reminder that when we move into the question and answer period, gentlemen, you will have 90 seconds to do so. Mr. Shandell Terrell, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Shandell Terrell, and I have a passion and dedication to provide the city of Lakeland opportunities to succeed with expanding business community, good living wage paying jobs, a safe place to live, and educated workforce. I was born and raised here in Lakeland, where I attended Oscar J. Polk Elementary School, Crystal Lake Junior High School, and a graduate from Lakeland Senior High School. I earned an athletic scholarship to Auburn University by playing football for Lakeland Senior High School. Within 2 years, I was diagnosed with a pinched nerve, and I transferred to Florida Agricultural Mechanical University, which is commonly known as Florida A&M University, where I earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Education. I earned a Master of Science degree in Educational Leadership from Nova Southeastern University, and a doctoral degree in Education with a concentration in Higher Educational Leadership with a minor degree in Urban Education from Nova Southeastern University. With the experiences that I had with the City of Lakeland, I served on the City of Lakeland Citizens Advisory Committee. I served on the City of Lakeland Budget Advisory Committee. I also served on the City of Lakeland Police Youth Athletic League Board of Directors, working with our inner city youth and the Lakeland Urban Core. And I currently serve on the City of Lakeland Game Task Force, and I currently serve on the City of Lakeland Police Advisory Board. And I thank you very much for your time.
So now that you've had an opportunity to hear from all 4 candidates, as we mentioned, we will move into the question and answer period. We're going to start just in no random order, or maybe a random order. Mr. Frankenberger.
All right.
And so you heard the question. It was about COVID, where we are right now, where we've been, and your position on what needs to happen and what you will do as a commissioner should you be granted the opportunity to serve.
Right. Wow, 1 year ago, we were talking about this with my daughter. McKeel let them out of school, said they'll be out for spring break and come back in 2 weeks. A year later, here we are. Mm-hmm. We all saw it coming from overseas, a pandemic on its way, a few cases here and there. Lakeland, at the early onset, they did put in a mask mandate, which I totally agree at the time with the information that they had from the doctors, what they learned from the community. They took in call-in voter, or call-in, everything was being done online or over the phone. So now we look at today and the future of where we are with COVID. And the numbers are coming down. The vaccine shots are going up. I'm super pleased that my in-laws have gotten their vaccines, and soon I'll be next and down the road. As we start getting these vaccines, we're going to come out of this thing. Now, what can the city do, or what can we do to? We've got to support these small businesses. Just today it was announced that Lakeland's going to be getting $14 million in from the government program that's coming down to Polk County. We can take that money, find the businesses that deserve that money, that have been struggling the most from that, and support them through some loan programs or whatever that maybe that they don't have to pay back. Thank you. I like the alarm.
I want to really thank our timekeepers for keeping us on task. And as you have recognized, they will buzz you. Yes, they will. All right. Moving along with the very same question, and if we could hear from Mr. Musick, your thoughts.
So if I understand the question correctly, it's what would I do as a city commissioner with COVID moving forward? Is that correct? Is that how I understand it?
That in some total.
In so many terms. You know, just like Steve said, I mean, COVID really took the wind out of us, right? It happened quick. It was difficult. My daughter was a senior that year, so she lost the whole year. It's sad where we went. I think that it was advisable at the time. We didn't know what was happening. We saw this come over, and it was scary for some people. A gentleman in my office lost both of his grandparents. My wife is asthmatic, so we obviously take respiratory things very seriously. I differ specifically on the mask mandate. I think that those that feel the need to wear the mask for themselves or for those in their family should certainly do so. I constantly have a mask with me in my pocket, so if I go somewhere as a small business owner, they say, hey, I'd like you to wear the mask. I respect that, and I put it on. My wife and I have traveled the Africa, South America, and countries doing ministry work. and we had to get the yellow fever shot in order to get into Africa. So I'm not opposed to getting the shot. There are a few things that make me nervous, the speed of it, the time that it came out. So I'm really going to push more on the personal freedom on what we want to do, but I do think that the shot needs to come out. I think that those need to use it, and I'm going to support the personal freedom aspect. Thank you.
Very good. All right, Mr. Post, we're going to post the very same question, or pose the very same question to you. And I think I'd like to add in there the addendum of the mask mandate and your thoughts on that.
I believe we've come through a very difficult year, and we should be diligent, keep wearing a mask because of what it says on mine. Love your neighbor. Show that love for each other. Express that love because you care for others. And as we continue to do that, we just patiently wait till the majority of the population gets vaccinated, and then we can safely take off the mask. And I think it should be something that's mandated because there are a lot of people in the population that don't do things unless you tell them to do it. So that's how I would look at it. And as we're nearing the end of this, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But as if we were walking through a tunnel with an oxygen mask on, we wouldn't take the mask off because we saw the light. We would wait till we get outside of the tunnel to take off that oxygen mask. So that same kind of analogy. Thank you.
Interesting perspective, Mr. Terrell.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Terrell.
Yes, ma'am. I believe the City Commission did a great job with mandating the mask mandate that was in place at the time, but we still need to try to follow the CDC guidelines as far as wearing a mask in large populated places like Publix, Walmart, or any type of large business that hold over 500 people, because that's where the virus can transition from person to person. Once the numbers decrease with the vaccine that is taking place within the residents and citizens throughout the local, state, and national level, then the decrease of the mask wearing will take place. So we need to continue to try to wear the mask in large gatherings, which is very necessary. But when you're in a small gathering, keep your 6 feet and make sure you follow the CDC guidelines. That's the way I feel on it.
All right. Moving right along, and I think we have a very clear idea how the candidates stand on that particular issue. The issue of road diet. Lakeland is roughly midway through a 1-year test of the South Florida Avenue Road Diet. City Commission will vote this fall on whether to work with the Florida Department of Transportation to make the road diet permanent through Dixieland. Part of that will involve adding landscaping and wider sidewalks instead of the temporary concrete barriers. Based on what you've seen so far, would you vote to make the road diet permanent? Dr. Terrell, I'm starting with you.
Being born and raised here in Lakeland, I can remember the time where we had 2 lanes on each side, which is a total of 4 lanes, and I love that because you were able to get in and out of Dixieland as far as traffic concerns, but it still was traffic jams there. With the road diet that took place, I did not like it at the beginning. The barriers were too bulky. I believe the residents made major concerns about that because they were messing up their tires and rims and axles and so forth. So the Department of Transportation adjusted the barriers. I believe the barriers are necessary for the businesses in Dixieland because you never know if a vehicle may hop over into that business and damage that business. So if we're going to have the barriers, and if they're going to be voted in, the barriers need to be narrowed a little bit more, just conducive for the drivers for their for axle purposes. And that's the way I feel.
Okay, and Mr. Post?
I think what they're doing in Dixieland is a good plan and should stick with it. It gives us the opportunity to make the whole length of Dixieland pedestrian friendly for bicycles, pedestrians, scooters, and wheelchairs. So as it's designed and they increase the size of the sidewalk, it'll give people a place to walk and stroll so that they can see all of the great new artwork that's going to be up hopefully in the next few months. As they decorate or put murals on all of the different walls, I think what we're going to end up with is an attractive site that brings in visitors from outside of our local area who are going to come to see the artwork on these walls. So for them to have a place to walk and for us to have a place to walk freely, it's beneficial for everyone in the community.
Mr. Musick, the very same question, and bear in mind we also want to find out if you would vote to make the road diet permanent.
Okay, I've only got 90 seconds, so I'm going to speak a little bit quicker. I have many friends that I know that live on those roads that come off of that. My sister is one of them. She tries to get off of Palmala onto South Florida, heading north on South Florida, and it's miserable. She's seen a handful of accidents increase. I've spoken with a handful of businesses on that street as well. Only one that I know of, it's a gas station, has seen an economic decrease because of this. I spoke with Nicole Travis, who's the director of the community development aspect of this. Her department oversees this. Ultimately, it's a state road, so the state will make this decision. They'll go off of our recommendation, but it is a state road. The issue was that this happened right before COVID. Traffic stopped. Traffic wasn't going down there, so we do not have significant traffic count to be able to decide what's going on. What's happening now is people, instead of going down the Dixieland South Florida corridor, they're turning down. They're going down Tennessee. They're going down Palmala. That's why you're seeing speed bumps go there. Traffic is increasing in areas where they did not intend traffic to increase. When I spoke with Nicole, I would agree with this one thing. I would increase the length of the study as COVID is releasing, as more people are going back to work, so we can get a true traffic study. But my vote would be no. It wouldn't have been yes in the first place. I think that we do not have a significant direction for people to go. They're wanting them to hit Hardin, and they're wanting them to hit 98, and it's just not happening, and it's affecting traffic intercity, and we want to stop that.
Mr. Frankenberger.
Yeah, so the road diet is it's a progressive plan to develop our future for Lakeland. It's too early to be doing a study like that. Wabash extension is going to be happening really soon. That's going to run down all the way from 92 George Jenkins Boulevard to the Polk Parkway. It'll give us another north-south road. The road diet, and with COVID going on, the traffic studies need to last longer. There are extra cars being put out onto New York and other side roads. I don't know if that study is going to extend out into those areas. I do believe that the traffic accidents are up 30% from previous years of study. But again, that's hard to determine based on the less traffic that we have because of COVID. If they decide to run the study for an extended year, maybe we'll know more then. But at this point, I would definitely vote no for a road diet in that area. We've basically added a bunch of speed bumps down through the middle of Dixieland. I understand the intent and what they're trying to do for the businesses, but it's not the right thing at the right time.
And I'm so happy that we posed that question. I am excited that you get an opportunity to see how the candidates feel on these issues. Let's talk about body cameras. Mr. Musick, I'm going to start with you. So body cameras for police officers have become a big issue. And after last spring's social justice protest, Mayor Bill Mutt said that everybody he talked with about the protest suggested that police be equipped with body cameras to safeguard both the public and the officers. However, Chief Garcia has said it will be too costly to equip all officers, store and maintain all of the video, and hire the people necessary to take care of the technology and record requests. So the question is, do you think Lakeland's police officers should be equipped with body cameras? Should the cost take precedence over salary negotiations for police officers in the union contract, which expired more than 2 years ago?
No. I don't think that body cameras are the answer. I think it affects our personal freedom, right? Everybody that we know of has a cell phone. They have a cell phone, which means they have a video camera. How many times have we looked online, we've seen a YouTube video of somebody getting pulled over, what's the first thing they do? They flick out and they're recording. So if we're talking about an issue from a police officer to someone that they're confronting, then there could be that would be the only advantage of the body camera. The downside of that I see would be the potential lawsuits that come from the lack of freedom that comes with that. Imagine a police stopping somebody. He's got a body camera on, and in the background there's somebody who is having an argument with his wife, or he's drunk. Well, if somebody requests that footage and it's an inner picture in the back, well, that person's going to end up having a lawsuit against the city for projecting and showing him in a manner that he did not approve of. I don't think that it has anything to do with cost. Money can come if it's something that needs to happen, but I would default back to the personal freedom and the fact that once Lakeland has it, you're going to start seeing Winter Haven and the other cities getting it as well. I know that Grady Judd is anti-cameras, and I would follow suit.
Mr. Post, the very same question, and Mr. Musick mentioned something really interesting, and he said that citizens, we all have phones with camera, and basically, you know, we can record these incidents as they happen. These cameras also have things in them that allow you to edit, so whether or not you're getting a factual report when you get from a citizen is left to anybody's imagination. What are your thoughts on body cameras?
I think body cameras serve a good purpose, and in areas where there's conflict between the public and the police, it serves its purpose to try to come to the truth and figure out what is going on. As far as Lakeland, I think we need to evaluate to see if it's necessary to provide all of our police force with a body camera. But on the surface, it is a positive thing, and it is for everyone's benefit and to help keep a clear, truth understanding of what took place.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Terrell, the very same question.
First off, we need to try to make sure we negotiate the contracts with the Lakeland Police Department, because Lakeland Police Department is the lowest paid agency pretty much throughout the region, believe it or not, but we provide the best services. So I do believe that need to take place first to make sure that we are in the top 2, not the 1 through 5 or 6 or 7, because we're down at the bottom pole when we need to be at the 1-2 pole, number 1. Then number 2, if Lake Wells is going to get body cameras, I believe Lakeland will eventually have body cameras. They have cameras for the car, cameras on the light, so I believe it's just an accountability for the cameras, for the body cameras, for law enforcement officers, and eventually it's going to happen. Just like with everything else, it's just a matter of time. But more importantly, it's easy to get the body camera itself, just the physical camera, but the cost of the storage is massive. And then you have to have a facility for the storage. So that's where the cost, that's the concern of the body cameras. It's not the camera itself that you put on the officer, it's the cost of the storage and the transition of the storage. Then you have to bring a consultant in and make sure, they upgrade the software. So that's the responsibilities of the body cameras. Thank you.
Mr. Frankenberger, what Dr. Terrell mentioned is kind of the thought that Chief Garcia had, that the cameras and operating them in a functional way that they make sense, plus keeping all that records, is going to be costly. What are your thoughts on body cameras, sir?
Yeah, Chief Garcia had a great presentation 2 weeks ago to the City Commission showing the cost, and it was all retail costs. So it was hard to say, okay, it's going to cost $10 million, $500,000 a year to store the. My thing is, we've got very talented people in this community that we can probably find a way to store this information, all this data. As far as body cameras themselves, I am a fan of body cameras. I think accountability is very important. What we see from somebody's video camera can be altered or changed or edited in a way where a body camera cannot be. So, sure, yeah, I mean, everybody's shooting video. My daughter had some, no, just something happened. But anyway, so body cameras are, I am a fan of the body camera, the accountability for it. I don't believe we're intruding on people's privacy, because if they're in a situation where a camera is being used, it's protection for them as a resident, and it's also a protection for the police officer themselves. I doubt it'll create any more lawsuits than that might come from a cell phone itself. The money part of it, that's all negotiable. I wouldn't even worry about those numbers that we're hearing today from Chief Garcia. And I do believe that this is coming whether we want it or not, so whatever the stand is.
There goes that buzzer. All right, Mr. Post. Cleveland Heights. There's been debate in recent years about the city's subsidy to operate the Cleveland Heights Golf Course. Critics question whether the city should spend more than $1 million a year on the amenity. Supporters say the golf course improves the quality of life and provides recreation at a reasonable cost. Question, should the city continue to support the golf course? Do you have any ideas for reducing the costs or increasing the revenues? And if the city were to decide to discontinue its operation, what should be done with the property?
Cleveland Heights Golf Course. I haven't had the pleasure of playing there myself, so I'm not sure what the fees are. But I did read a little bit about this, and I believe it is an asset to the city, and the city should try to maintain it and keep it within the park system. It may be something that we can look at and adjust some of the daily fees to see if that might help pay for the cost of running the park, the golf course. But I think it is definitely worth keeping within the park system of Lakeland City, City of Lakeland.
Very good. Dr. Terrell?
Yes, as long as I've been here, I love viewing Cleveland Heights. Although I'm not a golfer, I believe the city should support Cleveland Heights in this effort of keeping up the lands. And it's more than just a golf course, too. You have a dining hall in there. You have a banquet hall in there. So I believe the city of Lakeland should support Cleveland Heights.
Mr. Frankenberger, very same question.
Yeah. Part of my agenda is to make sure that when we get these higher paid jobs and people to come to our community is to offer them the amenities that they want. A golf course is an important amenity for that. $1 million a year as Parks and Rec to maintain the golf course. I don't know how accurate those numbers are and what we can do to alter that. I do have a suggestion. I am for saving Cleveland Heights. The golf course is a very important asset to our community. There are 3 9-hole courses out there. I would like to look at the option of putting some Frisbee golf on one of those 9 holes and then make that a league sport and bring in some more income that way and another small business into our community. And then also, I'd like to get with community about offering a drone racing thing that would happen annually out there and try to bring in some more to our economy with the hotels and restaurants that might gain traction from that. Drone racing is a pretty popular sport right now. So those are things we could do with that land. As far as developing that land, totally against that. I do think that we need an amenity for the executives that come to Lakeland.
And Mr. Post. Mr. Musick. And Mr. Post already.
Thank you. So I met out with Bob Donahue, the director of Parks and Rec, and we actually met out at the golf course and got in a golf cart and drove all the way to the very back and started weaving our way back through the golf course. And it's a beautiful golf course. I've lived here, most of my life. We used to live right across from the golf course, and when I was little, my dad, we'd walk out and we'd kind of pick up errand balls, and so I love the golf course. What I don't love is deficits. All right, I don't like us to have to pay for something. When I was talking with Bob, I was asking about the possibility, the probability of slowly raising our greens fees, right, to be able to offset that over time. He wasn't against it, but he did think that there was a threshold that we've got to be careful with, and I would agree with that. One thing that I love about golf, and I only get to play a few times a year, but when I do play, I play in golf scrambles. They're fundraisers, and Cleveland Heights has a lot of those. There's a lot of organizations that are nonprofits that generate revenue because they're able to use the golf course for their tournaments, and I'm very, very supportive of that in that respect. I have met with Steve Scruggs and some of the other people that are developers around here about the possibility of losing 9 holes to development. I would need to see a very, very detailed description of how that would play out before I would vote that.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And while we're still talking about fiscal responsibility, let's talk about affordable housing. And Dr. Terrell, I'm going to start with you. Is the city taking adequate action to increase the stock of affordable housing in Lakeland? If not, what more should it be doing?
Yes, I believe the city of Lakeland is doing a great job with affordable housing. Where the Lake Wire area section is, they redeveloped that area pretty well. In addition to the Lincoln Court, the old Lincoln Court apartment area, they redeveloped that into a housing area, residential area, which is great. With Washington Oaks, they redeveloped affordable housing there. And they also redeveloped the Dakota Projects and the Ridge community area. So I believe the affordable housing that is taking place is good. More can be done. More redevelopment can be done to decrease the blight, especially in the northwest side, some sections there. There can always be more enhancement in the north section of Lakeland that can mirror the south side of Lakeland.
And we'll move right along, sir, to you. I'd like to hear your response on the very same issue.
The affordable housing in Lakeland has, as Terrell said, they've made some great progress. There's a lot of units. They're trying to do, I think, 500 units over the next several months, a total of 500 over the last 2 years. They've committed $250,000 a year towards affordable housing and using that to actually get additional grants from the state and county. But I think we can do more. There are many vacant lots in Lakeland City that can be used to create single-family affordable housing. Units that can be starter homes for young families, as well as older adults that need affordable housing. So I think we're moving in the right direction, and there's a good focus on it, but we can do more.
And Mr. Musick, do you agree, sir, that we are moving in the right direction, or would you say there's more that we need to do?
Yeah, I would agree with both of my fellow candidates here. We've done a great job. The city of Lakeland does a great job of loving on its citizens. We do a great job of helping, and low-income housing and subsidized housing is one of those that I think that we do very well. Can we do more? Certainly. There's always more that can be done. We do have some vacant land. We have some things that can be utilized to create duplexes, and they do that. There's several programs, the Keystone Challenge Fund and some of the other funds that help with those subsidized needs. What I would love to see, you know, whenever we try to draw, as a city, we try to draw in businesses, right? They're not all going to be $120,000, $80,000 salaries. There's going to be some lower salaries. We've got to have that mix of that. So we need to have housing of all levels. Where I want to focus is let's raise the bar. Let's let the rising tide bring everybody up. Let's do a better job of getting wages higher. Let's do a better job of bringing companies that are bringing these high value, high wages to Lakeland, so that when we sit back and we look about low income, it's not the low income that most people would think. That's what I want. I want higher income for people because I want the jobs to be great.
Mr. Frankenberger, Mr. Musick said quite a lot just now, so your thoughts?
Okay, yes, the affordable housing, our city has done a great job. The 500 units in a year, or maybe a little bit longer than that with COVID, but I don't know if, personally, I know the numbers of exactly how many affordable housing or units are needed for our citizens that live in Lakeland. So once we know those numbers and have an idea of what is, but also there has to be the training and to help people help themselves to get working with publics. I know that there's some really high paid jobs. There's always plenty of openings out there. By bringing in high tech industries or higher pay industries, hopefully we'll need less affordable housing. So my goal would be to find out where these numbers are, take the land that we currently have that the city owns and what they're doing right now with that, and deciding where that affordable housing should be located. But then trying to work with the community at the same time to bring those incomes up by giving people appropriate training. Maybe there's some grant money there or something that we can do to help people that want to help themselves and get further ahead. Now, we definitely need affordable housing. It's definitely going to be something our city has done a great job with. The redevelopment of areas is beautiful, and they've done a great job with it. Thank you.
And I just want to say, especially to the audience, we have about 2 more of these to get through, and then we'd love to field your questions. Bear in mind, if you've heard your issue answered, go ahead and just hold on to your 3x5. But if you've not, we'd be happy to pose those questions to the gentlemen who are running for office. And so let's talk a little bit about Lakeland Regional Health. Recently, the City Commission made a major change to the city's lease with Lakeland Regional Health. The hospital will be paying a lump sum of $215 million to end its lease obligations instead of more than $14 million per year. Through 2040 is when that period will happen. Supporters say the move will help protect the hospital's long-term viability. Critics say the move will force the city to look for new revenue sources for things like parks and fire stations, and I'm sure the road diet and cameras and all of that. Do you think it was a good idea to approve the lump sum payment? I'm starting with you, Mr. Frankenberger.
The hospital lease is very interesting because $14 million for the amount of land, facility, and the value of it is very acceptable range. But when the government or state government changed how we can build hospitals, next thing you know, we had Advent Health, Orlando Health, all these, you drive up and down Florida Avenue, you see all these urgent care things going up everywhere, some things we never even heard of. So the hospital has to negotiate. They have to figure out a way to be competitive with this group and what's happening within the state with hospitals being built. Taking the $215 million lump sum, I would not have approved that as a commissioner. I do think renegotiating a long-term deal would have been better. They can take $250 million, they can invest it, maybe make 4%, 6% return on it, but eventually that'll run out. It's not going to be there. And then after 2040, we dropped to $10 a year. $10 a year for that hospital lease, yeah, okay. So I would have definitely negotiated a better option for the city of Lakeland, coming up with $14 million for our parks and our whatever we were using the money for at the time is going to be a hard deficit to overcome.
Mr. Musick?
Like I mentioned in my introduction, what I push for is transparency. Many of the citizens that were not directly involved in either the finance department or the hospital themselves were not privy to exactly what was going on until it became an issue in front of the City Commission. Obviously, they talk about this all the time when they're going to renegotiate it. The hospital has to be put into a position where they can be competitive. There's no doubt. Hospitals are coming, and it's going to change. Look over at Tampa General. They're paying $1 a year. I mean, it's not an uncommon thing to do. We have an asset in the hospital, but in 2040, when we were going to renegotiate, there was also potential legislation coming down that money that was going to come to us would not be able to be used in Parks and Rec and our general use where it is now, but would need to be used and funneled over toward indigent care. So it's possible that in 2040 that money would not have been able to be used by us to offset some of the costs that we have anyway. So would I have voted yes for it? Probably. I would have liked to have had bigger dialogue with the city with that information. Here's what it looks like now. Here's what it looks like post 2040. That didn't happen, and that's one thing that as a city commissioner, I'm going to stand for, is to make sure that that stuff's out there and everybody can read it. Let's not rush on something that we've done since the 80s.
Mr. Post, would you have voted for that deal?
No, I would not have. I would have requested, as Mike was saying, more information. I did some research and tried to find as much information I could about this, and the $215 million is a large lump sum, but I'm not sure where they're going to get 6% annual investment. I mean, I'd like to put my money there. So I'm not sure how that's going to sustain the projects that we've been using it for. I think negotiating a better deal would have been something that could have been done, but not knowing all the details, I'm not sure, because I did read that they were negotiating this for almost 10 years, trying to come up with a good solution for both the city as well as the hospital. We do need the hospital. The hospital serves our residents and is a great asset, but at the same time, we need to take care of other parts of the city and keep things funded. So I think having more information about it would have been a way to make a educated decision. So my initial is no, I would not have approved.
All right, thank you for your response. And Dr. Terrell?
I was pondering that question. There had to be a reason why the City Commission made that vote to take that lump sum of money and to preserve Lakeland Regional Medical Center. It's very hard to answer yes or no because you have to be at the table to really understand the reason why they voted, because I'm pretty sure if it was going to be detrimental to the city of Lakeland, they probably would have said, no, we need to table this or have more discussion, but there was something in there, in that language or information that they all pretty much voted on it to go ahead and take that lump sum of money for Lakeland Regional Medical Center. So if I was sitting there and if I would have had the information and the data and the statistics and they presented it all to me and I had to sit there right there with them, presently I would vote yes with them. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so here's another deal that has come under great fire. It regards our local electric. So the question, and don't move your mic too far, Dr. Terrell, would be, would you consider a sale or lease of Lakeland Electric?
No, ma'am. No sale, no lease. The only reason why they had to shut down Unit 3 because it was coal burned, I believe so. So they had to purchase electricity from Orlando and Hillsborough County. But once that unit is rebuilt, we will have those funds back in the city of Lakeland. So it's the purchase of energy outsourced in the nearby counties of Orange County or Hillsborough County is only temporarily, but that's a no to Lakeland Electric for the sale.
And sir, Mr. Post, what are your thoughts on the issue?
Lakeland Electric is one of the unique things about the city of Lakeland, that we own our electric company. For many years, I negotiated buying electric for the campus that I worked at. It's a very tough thing to do because there's so much that goes into the negotiating electric purchasing because of the weather, price of oil, different things going on. So by us owning our own electric company, we have the ability to maintain cost and to keep prices relatively low for our citizens. And the profit that they do have a profit margin every year. They put that right back into the city. So it's a great benefit, and we should keep it and keep it within the city.
Very good. And Mr. Musick, good deal, bad deal, sale, lease, neither?
So it's interesting when you research back into Lakeland Electric and its founding and why we even have Lakeland Electric. You go back to the beginning when Lakeland was very small and there was no power generation that was willing to come to a small place like us, and that was pretty universal. Orlando was the same thing, and Tampa. So everybody had their own energy to provide energy for their families or for their citizens. There's really two parts to that, right? We have two assets when we talk about Lakeland Electric. We have the power generation, right? But then we have the permitting that comes from owning a power station, right? Nobody can go today easily, and as you read in the news with the EPA and whatnot, you can't just go and create and start a power company. So that's a huge asset. So we have two different parts of it, right? Lakeland Electric does not, and has not for a very long time, generated 100% of the needs that we consume. right? So we're part of a consortium, right? We get power from Orlando, we get power from Duke, we get power from some of these local things. We've got transfer lines that go back and forth. So it's very, very common for us to share and buy power. So I'm not afraid of that whatsoever. I think that if we were to consider selling it, I would say that one of the two things we would sell, we would not sell our permit. We would not sell the fact that we own the power company. But we've got a steam engine that's creating this that's from the 50s. I mean, we aren't putting the money aside that we need to be able to regenerate that. So in the future, we're going to have to deal with equipment and stuff that we don't have money to maintain. So that's going to be tricky, and we're going to have to figure that out.
Tricky, and we have to figure it out. At this point, based on the information we have, Mr. Frankenberger, would Lakeland Electric be a sale for you, a lease, or neither?
I would not be for a sale or a lease. Lakeland Electric is part of the assets of the city. It is great for our community to have our own power supply, our own power company. Having Lakeland citizens maintaining Lakeland power, we have a hurricane come through, you've got people that live right here in this community that are getting power back on for you in emergency situations. Lakeland Power, Lakeland Electric, gives a great asset or a great fund back to the city to be used to generate other resources we have in the city. Our electric bills are lower than most communities in the area because of this. Lakeland Electric, I would never consider selling or leasing or anything like that.
All right. And gentlemen, I want to thank you for being so clear and so candid on the formal questions that we posed this evening. It was clear that you've done your research, and I believe that any one of these gentlemen would make a noble candidate for the Southeast District D seat. And so now you have to do your homework to, and I see Barrett coming, which tells me that there are some other questions that we are about to pose to you. So thank you very much. We do have a small studio, should I call it studio audience, and we are socially distanced for those who are wondering. We are also joined by an audience online, and so these questions possibly are being generated from both places.
So these three,
Mm-hmm.
and these from the audience.
All right. Okay. So we're going to pick your brains a little bit more, it seems. Strong mayor. Let's talk about strong mayor. There was a major effort a few years ago to replace Lakeland's manager-council form of government with a strong mayor form. If the issue surfaces again, Mr. Post, which form would you favor and why?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, sir, I most certainly will. There was a major effort a few years ago to replace Lakeland's manager-council form of government with a strong mayor form. If the issue surfaces again, which form would you favor and why?
I would favor the strong mayor form. I believe it's good to have a leader within the city who can speak for all of the citizens. And then with the council and the commissioners working together with him or her to come up with the best plans for our future. So I believe that having that individual who is the leader in that situation running the city is an important aspect.
All right, Dr. Terrell, your thoughts?
You have to analyze the numbers to make sure that we have the numbers to have a strong mayor. Otherwise, I really couldn't make a decision on it unless I'm actually a commissioner sitting there and making sure that we have the numbers to support it. Otherwise, I wouldn't support it.
You would not support it. And Mr. Musick?
Yeah, no, I would not call it a strong mayor at that point. I'd really call it a bought mayor. That's what's going to happen, right? Somebody with a lot of money is going to put the person that they want in charge, and that's not what we want. Right now, the city commission hires and fires two people. That's our city attorney, and that's our city manager. Everybody else gets hired from them. We work on policy, they work on that. If we have a strong mayor, we're going to put ourselves in a position that we don't want to. We're going to lose the control from the citizen structure that we currently have. So there's no way that I would support that.
And in no uncertain terms, you heard that. And Mr. Frankenberger.
Well, as Lakeland grows to a larger city, these are things we look at down the road. Our up and down I-4 corridor, whether it's Orlando, Tampa, St. Pete, I believe they all have strong mayor formats. We are not to the size we need to be right now for strong mayor. And I don't know enough about how those cities operate internally to understand if that situation is working or not working for them. So currently, I don't think Lakeland is a large enough city to accommodate strong mayor.
Mm-hmm. But would this be something you would vote for in the future?
Well, to get to the size of Tampa, St. Pete, Orlando, then possibly then.
Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about broadband. City of Lakeland owns more than 300 miles of fiber optic cable that it uses for its own operations. In addition, it sells access to the fiber to large organizations. There have been talks for years about building on the fiber optic system to provide high-speed internet to local homes and businesses. Should the City of Lakeland extend its fiber network to start a broadband internet utility, either on its own or with a private partner? And if you would, Mr. Musick?
Yeah, I think that had you not given me that second part of the sentence, I would have said no, but we've got to involve private industry in any talks like that. The city does not need to be in the fiber optic business. They don't need to be in the cable TV business. They don't need to be part of that. Now, if they've got the infrastructure run and they can have a business that's their business model, is to come and run and tie into that and go, then I'd be all for that. But the business needs to be, the city needs to stay in the business of not being in the fiber optic business. So I would not.
Mr. Frankenberger?
Yeah, we have great utilities right now with Lakeland Electric, Lakeland Water, our recycling program, garbage pickup. All these things are fantastic things for our citizens of Lakeland. Fiber optics, with telecommunications, there's a lot of rules there that a local municipality may not be able to control. Federal government controls a lot of that. I don't think, for a city to enter that is probably a good idea. Right now, private industry should do that. We maybe sell more access to that fiber optic would be a great idea. But right now, I don't think the fiber optic that we have would be good to promote.
Dr. Terrell, do you believe that this is a situation for private businesses to come in, or should the city be at the fore of this?
Last year there was a presentation about fiber optic and cable, and possibly the city owning their own cable company and so forth. But it's not conducive to to the residents in the city of Lakeland. So until it is compatible and is more acceptive within the city of Lakeland Electric, I would have to say no.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Post, your thoughts on the issue, sir?
The fiber optics is definitely an area for partnerships with the city, reaching out to companies that know fiber optics and know how to run systems. So I think it would be best run by those companies that know how to do it.
Sounds good. All right, so single-member districts. As you know, 4 of the city commissioners represent a specific quadrant of the city, although they run citywide in the office or for the office. Should Lakeland change its city charter so that these 4 commissioners are elected only by the people in the district they represent? Mr. Frankenberger.
No, I don't think so. The city of Lakeland is small enough to where we can all vote for the city commission for whichever district it may be in. Now, we'll definitely promote things that are in our districts, whatever falls into those certain areas, and how we want to either do beautification projects, development, or whatever it may be, once we're as elected commissioners. But all of Lakeland should vote for each of the districts.
And your thoughts, Mr. Musick?
Yeah, and then that's an interesting question, and not something, honestly, that I've spent much time thinking about. I think it's interesting, right? I mean, I'm representing a certain district. I need to live in that certain district, but yet I'm voted on by everybody, which makes sense, right? I mean, when I'm elected, I'm going to represent everybody, right? So I don't have an issue with that specifically. I think that it is interesting that we have a combination of both, You know,
Are you for changing the charter as it is now?
I would probably not change the charter as it is now, because I would agree. I would agree with Steve that it's easy enough to go and get to our city, which we need to do anyway, right? As the commissioner, I'm going to need to represent the east, west, north, south. I'm going to need to be everywhere. So by changing the charter, I would lose that,
Yeah.
right? I would lose the desire maybe to go out and do that. So I do think that having that encourages me to go out where I don't reside. So as I'm talking myself through it, I would certainly like to keep it the way it is.
We
Thank you.
like that because I think we get more honest there than when you've had
And
chance
honesty's
to
the key.
rehearse.
As long as you're honest, you don't have to remember what you said.
Well, I agree with that wholeheartedly, sir. I do have to remember what I said and in what order I am going, and so if you would, Mr. Post, the very same question.
Okay, so I believe the way it's set up now is beneficial for all the residents of the city of Lakeland, because they're picking the team that's going to make the decisions for the city of Lakeland, not just that district, not the north, the south, the east, west, but the commission works together to make decisions for all of the citizens of Lakeland. So I would say no to changing it.
Thank you so very much. I was trying to see if I could cajole Barry in sharing some of these questions by getting a mic, but I think he's not for it. I think that was I was trying to, a word I learned this evening, ladies and gentlemen, voluntold. Thank you so much for augmenting my vocabulary. It shall be used often. Dr. Terrell, the very same question, sir.
I'll keep it simple, no.
No, that's simple enough. All right, and so we do have questions from the audience. We asked about those, and so what are the candidates' positions on broadening the pool of dispatchers, such as dispatching psychologists over officers for someone experiencing a mental health crisis? And let me say that with these questions, I think we're going to throw them out and same 90 seconds for everyone. All right, well, how about we start with you, Mr. Post, on this question? What are your thoughts on that?
The question is,
Yes.
when we're dispatching
Yes.
for emergency call or police call?
Yeah, we're going to dispatch psychologists to, you know, because we experience situations sometimes, crisis situation, mental health crisis. Is this something that we should be looking into doing?
I think it's something we can look into doing, but we need to be sure that those personnel are trained properly for all situations. The police know how to handle the situations in case it got violent or something. Mental issues are, sometimes those do tend to escalate. So as long as the personnel is trained on self-defense and how to restrain, then it would be beneficial for all parties.
Absolutely. And then, Mr. Musick, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I think initially my response would be no. I think that there certainly are issues that come with mental health issues and different ways of handling that when an officer goes onto the scene. I would probably again default to a private sector type of a job, you know, where they would go. And I have a friend that's a psychiatrist. And he works with the sheriff's department. So when they have someone that they need to have analyzed, they take that to a private psychiatrist. So I would probably default to say no. I probably would not want to continue to increase the police force by adding psychologists, psychiatrists, and things of that nature.
And your thoughts, Mr. Frankenberger, should we also employ mental health facilitators who will go out on dispatch calls?
That's a heavy question. I volunteered a little bit with Peace River. I would reach out to them for their support on how they can see how this would happen. I don't believe every call you could send someone out. What Ken had said about are they trained in self-defense, because you don't know the situations you're going to get into. I believe our police officers are probably very well trained in situations already that might involve mental health. That would be definitely a lot of discussion with our local community and finding out with organizations like Peace River to find out how they can support that.
Dr. Terrell?
Yes, it's all according on the need. If the Lakeland Police Department have a need within that area and the numbers are high, I would say yes. We will need to have that person in place, persons in place. But otherwise, if
It
there's
probably
not
would
a
be
need,
persons.
huh?
It probably would be persons.
Persons, yeah, okay, several. But if there's not a need and the numbers are low, it's all about the numbers and the data. So it's all about the need it's all about the necessary need.
And I think this could very well be a follow-up question. What are your plans to assist homeless people in Lakeland? We talked about affordable housing earlier, but there has been and I think a steady and consistent influx of people, whether they're originally from here or they're coming into the area. You know, we've seen a rise in homelessness in our city. What are your plans to assist homeless people in Lakeland? I'm going to start with you, Dr. Terrell.
I believe we have a lot of great nonprofit organizations, Lighthouse Ministry, Talbot House, that deal with the homeless community to try to get them back on their feet, to provide them with a bed and occupation to contribute to the economy. I believe we need to focus more in those areas to see what we can do as a city commission to provide them with the resources if needed. Whatever we need to do to expand their opportunities so we can decrease the homeless population and put them into a possible home and put them to work.
Mr. Post, your thoughts, sir?
Yes, we do have great ministries in the city of Lakeland. We're going together as a group next Monday to visit Lighthouse Ministries. So there are a lot of ministries that are reaching out to the community, doing as much as they can to help. One of the things I think we could possibly look at is tiny homes, because a lot of the homeless on the street, they don't want a big house or something big to maintain. So if we could set up some kind of tiny home neighborhood, I think we might find a good meeting place for them.
Mr. Musick?
Yeah, I think that actually, Andrea, is a great follow-up question, because I think that the issue of homelessness in its root is not the lack of homelessness. There's issues behind that lead to that, right? It's not that somebody didn't make a couple mortgage payments and now they're out on the street. Usually there's very, very deep roots of something that went beyond and before that to be able to get you there. So I would echo their comments. We've got some great things in town. I mean, we truly, like I stated earlier, we love our citizens and we do very well by them. We need to continue. There's already budgeted money for grants to these organizations like Talbot House, Lighthouse, and some of the other organizations. So what I would like to see is a partnership with the local religious organizations, right? We've got over 300 churches here in town. So to be able to partner with them so we can work on getting to the root of the problem. And then after that, take those next step, like maybe Ken said, to offer something that is a transition through that. As you look through areas that have done this, that's kind of what they've done, is get to the root and then give them some placement, give them some education, and then walk them through that.
And Mr. Frankenberger, the very same question, sir.
Yeah, I believe in the dignity, respect of all. You know, homeless people got there in a way that may not be what we think or how. Offering support systems that like Lakeland does, or the community churches that have involved with its Talbot House, Lighthouse Ministries, they have some great programs going on. The city offers support in that. We need to make sure that the love of Lakeland shows that support, but also in a way that we can also bring in the community to help our homeless population. And the tiny house idea, maybe that would be a good option, just finding that land for that and where that's located. But we can definitely respect and show dignity to everybody. So.
Very well said. What ideas do you have to add commercial flights to Lakeland Linder International Airport? Should the city reserve a revenue guarantee for an airline? Mr. Musick.
would you mind, I didn't catch all of that.
Sure.
Would you mind reading it?
Yeah, what ideas would you have to add commercial flights to Lakeland Linda International Airport? You know, we've been hearing about this for years, and what should the city reserve, or should the city reserve a revenue guarantee for an airline?
Yeah, that's a great question. I met with Gene Conrad, who's the director of our airport, and he's chomping at the bit and he's ready to go. I asked him, I said, as a city commissioner, what is it that you need from us to be able to do that? And he said, just let me go get him. He said, I'm going out there, I'm calling. There's the Allegiance, the Frontiers, these things. Oddly enough, the one that we did have for a while, I think the only place it went to Biloxi for casinos.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the direction there wasn't kind of what we needed. But we are in a position of growth here in Florida. We've got some regional airlines, I said, like Allegiant. My wife and I, when we fly up to see our kids in Ohio in college, we'll fly Allegiant. We'll have to go to St. Peter. We'll have to go all the way over to Sanford. So there's nothing more we would love than to see that. Where we get the struggle is the guaranteed income and the guaranteed revenue, right? I mean, we cannot guarantee that we're going to have X number of flights, per day, per month, whatever the number is that they're looking at. As we take that and extrapolate it out to right now, right? We've got flights coming through with Amazon right now, right? We've got 6 a day, and we're going to be bumping up to 20 a day. So we're starting to get some momentum, and we're starting to have other companies take notice of what Lakeland has and what we have to offer. So I think that we've just got to be diligent, and we've got to put those in charge, like Gene Conrad. We've got to let them off the hook and say, go get it.
Go get it. Mr. Frankenberger?
Yeah, the airport's Lakeland International Airport. Gene Conrad's done a fantastic job getting the airport ready, runway additions and other things. Guaranteeing funds for flights. We need to reach out to our local corporations, large corporations, Publix, Rooms to Go, Amazon, maybe even the hospital or other areas. Find out where they need to fly. What areas of the Northeast, up and down the coast. I don't see us going out west very much, but if they need to get to Washington or Atlanta or wherever it may be, reach out to those large businesses, find out where they need to go, and through private industry, ask them to support so many flights per day or per month or whatever it may be through the funding. I don't see the city setting aside money to fund a flight path for any airline. But maybe our local businesses can do that, but local large businesses, because they do have people that need to fly up and down the coast. We're ready. Lakeland Airport's ready. It's got everything it needs in place to make it happen. Now it's just, I say the airport's ready. Maybe the roads around it might not be, the infrastructure part of it, but that'll come. That'll be taking place.
All right, the very same question for you, Mr. Post.
So the question is, do we want to have a major airline?
Well, what should we be doing to secure that, to add commercial flights to Lakeland Linda? As we've heard from the two gentlemen before, and I think most of us will attest, we have beautiful facilities. We have Mr. Conrad, who is doing a tremendous job there. What can we do now to add commercial flights to Lakeland Linda? And should the city reserve a revenue guarantee for an airline?
Well, that seems to be the top question I've gotten from citizens of Lakeland. They've emailed me, they've called me, asking me my position on the airport, and should we add commercial airlines? Because the biggest concern that I'm hearing from the residents of the city is the noise factor. They're complaining already about the noise from the Amazon flights, and we're getting ready to increase the number of flights on Amazon. Those complaints may well go up. I know I did read that they're going to change the flight patterns to try to reduce that noise for some of the residents over by the Hardin Boulevard area. But I think we need to really be sure if that's what we want to do. Do we really want to have a major airline? When I look at it, I say, well, maybe we want some smaller airlines that would get us from here to Tampa or from here to Orlando, where we then transfer to a larger flight.
Okay. And Dr. Terrell?
Yes, we have to look at the numbers to see which flights bring in the most volume to Lakeland, whether if it's to
And are you talking volume of people, volume of money? What are you talking?
when I say volume of people,
Okay.
yeah. As far as going to Miami or Atlanta or out of state, we have to look at that to make sure that it's conducive to Lakeland and the Lakeland Airport. We have a great airport. Very happy that we have one of the best airports in Polk County, in addition to the state of Florida. But it's all about the numbers. And if the numbers match what the need is, I believe we can do it.
Keep the microphone. We do have one more question. Now, whether we want to think that this is still an issue in our land or it is not, there are many who will say the issue of race is one. And so when there is a person of color in any type of position, you are looked at, not only do you have to set the bar, not only do you have to be responsible for a lot of things, you're also going to be looked at as, you know, what are you going to do for? And so this question will be for everyone, but I'm starting with you, Dr. Terrell. And the question is, what would you do to ensure growth and equity for Black-owned businesses and contracts for those businesses?
Well, we have to invite those small business owners to the table, have an open dialogue and communication. Don't have no backroom conversations, keep it open and honest. That's the only way we're going to have minority growth. It's very important here because Lakeland's growing, diversity is growing, and the demographics have to match, you know, because Afro-Americans pretty much purchase a lot, so we should own the same amount of business as we purchase from. So I'm in agreement for more minority businesses and bringing them to the table if needed. Mm-hmm. But you have to make sure that minority business have to make sure that they have their credentials in place and sound. Yeah.
Very well said. Mr. Post, your thoughts, sir, on the very same issue. And yes, we live in that world still. We still have to have this as a question.
So increasing the amount of minority business in the city?
Yeah, what are we going to do about that? And contracts for those businesses.
Well, I believe...
equity and contract.
Yes. So as we are going to be receiving large sums of money through this COVID relief fund, we could look at really using that money to help support minority businesses throughout the city. Many of them struggled through COVID, and some unfortunately had to close down. But if we look at those resources that are coming and use those to establish businesses throughout the city to help increase the diversity of our businesses.
Mr. Frankenberger, sir?
As I said earlier, respect and dignity for all. I truly believe that the diversity of our community is fantastic right now, all minority areas. What we can do as a commission to help support businesses get off the ground, Catapult's a great example. Catapult will help anybody in any business. Again, the support systems that we have in place, whether it's through some leadership training or some strategies or things that we can help with budgeting, and help all businesses, but looking at our minority businesses and helping them to achieve the goals that they want to achieve in the parts of Lakeland they want to be. We should have open door diversity everywhere. It should just be a way of life in Lakeland.
And Mr. Musick, sir, you have the final berth on this question. Your thoughts?
So I think that there's two parts of that question. One was
equity,
and the other one was contracts. And,
yes.
Okay, so as someone who in the past has bid on and has done government contracts in construction, I think one of the best things we can do for everybody is to have a blind envelope system where the best person gets the job, the most qualified, the person who meets the standards that they set up in the RFP. But let's take it to the real question that I see, which is how do we get minority businesses that may feel underprivileged, that may feel that they don't have a seat at that table, what do we need to do to get them where they need to be. And let's be honest, I mean, I go to City Hall a lot for permits and stuff like that. Most of the people I hire are minority businesses, but they don't go after these contracts, right? Because they don't feel qualified, they don't feel that they can do the work, they don't feel that they have the financial equity to be able to sit those. I think we need to have not just seminars and education training, we have got to go where they are, right? Because they're not going to come to us. That's a general statement, obviously, but we have got to go and set up in districts where we know that these businesses are, where we know that these minority businesses, and we need to go and we need to say, listen, here's what the city already has available. Let us help walk you through how you can become the person and the company you want to be.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you so very much for not only a strong, healthy conversation, but a civil conversation tonight. And for the audience, you have been amazing. And just for everyone who has been a part of this, thank you so very much for being here, for watching, for tuning in with your questions. I'm Andrea Oliver. I'm going to turn it back over now to Barry Friedman from Lakeland Now.
Thank you, Andrea, and that was a great job. And I appreciate Andrea for introducing me because I failed to introduce myself before. I'm Barry Friedman. I'm the founder, publisher, and editor of Lakeland Now. I want to thank everybody for coming here, particularly the candidates. People have been very curious about who you are. I've been getting lots of questions from people. How do we find out about the candidates? And I said, the forum tonight is the place to do it. So we appreciate your candor. We all learned a lot. Remember that Election Day is April 6th. For those who have ordered mail-in ballots, they've already started going out. Early voting takes place March 29th through April 5th. The closest, the one Lakeland location is the Polk Government Operations Center at 930 East Parker Avenue. Please vote. And I also want to remind everybody that Lakeland Now is a nonprofit organization. We count on community support. All of our content is free, but we ask for donations from those who appreciate what we do and can afford to give. It's very easy. Go to LkldNow.com, LkldNow.com/support. We appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for those who are watching. Appreciate it.